The last time Amelia looked into her father's eyes, there was nothing there. No trace of the man who used to hoist her onto his shoulders at the county fair, or sneak her extra syrup at breakfast just to see her grin. Instead, his gaze was cold and hollow, heavy with something closer to shame than sorrow. She stood on the creaking wooden steps of their rural Tennessee porch, her suitcase by her feet and her hands trembling over the curve of her 6-month belly. She was 17, terrified, and utterly alone. "You made your bed," her father said gruffly, not meeting her eyes. "He's waitin' down the road. You're his problem now." He didn't say goodbye. The man waiting for her wasn't what she expected. Not at all. He leaned against an old Ford truck, arms crossed, boots dusty from mountain clay. Tall. Weathered. Quiet. His beard was thick, his hair shaggy. His clothes were simple, and so was the way he looked at her, no pity, no anger, just stillness. "Amelia?" he asked, his voice low and steady. She nodded, wordless. He took her bag without speaking and placed it gently in the back seat. She hesitated before climbing in. The truck smelled of pine and tobacco and something else, something clean. Safety, maybe. They drove in silence for hours, the world slowly rising around them in shades of green and gray. The farther they got from town, the lighter her chest felt, and the heavier her thoughts became. Who was this man? What would he want from her? What had her father promised? They reached the cabin just before dusk. It wasn't much, small, rough-hewn logs, a single chimney puffing soft smoke into the sky, but it was surrounded by trees that felt like guardians, tall and ancient. He opened her door and offered her a hand, not as a command, but as an invitation. Inside was modest but warm. A fire crackled in the hearth. There were books, stacks of them, lined along homemade shelves. A small table, 2 wooden chairs, a rocking bench, and a thick rug spread near the fire. He showed her the small bedroom at the back. Clean sheets. A handmade quilt. A rocking chair beside the window. "I'm Elijah," he said finally. "You'll be safe here." Amelia blinked. "Safe?" He nodded. "I don't know what they told you. But I won't touch you. I don't want anything from you. I have space. You need space. That's enough for now." That night, she barely slept. Her heart beat against her ribs like a trapped bird. But no one came to her room. No one raised a voice. No one locked a door. For the first time in weeks, maybe months, she didn't cry. The days passed slowly. Elijah kept mostly to himself, chopping wood, fixing things, reading on the porch, but always left space for Amelia to join him, if she chose. He cooked in silence, set an extra plate without comment. He taught her how to light the stove, how to make tea with herbs from the forest, how to tie knots that held under pressure. It took her almost a week to speak more than a few words. "Why did you agree?" she asked one morning, over oatmeal. He looked up, thoughtful. "Because your father was wrong." She blinked, startled. "You didn't need punishment," he continued. "You needed a place to remember who you are." Amelia didn't know what to say. No one had spoken to her like that in months. Not her parents. Not her former friends. Not the boy who disappeared the moment she told him about the baby. And so, in the quiet of the mountains, she began to heal. She started writing again, filling journals with memories, thoughts, dreams. She would sit on the porch in the evening with Elijah, watching the light dip below the trees, and sometimes they'd talk about small things. Other times, they said nothing at all, and it was enough. He never asked about the baby's father. Never brought up her parents. Instead, he asked about her favorite books, her favorite songs, what she wanted to name the child. He built her a small cradle with his own hands, carving delicate stars into the headboard. "For her dreams," he said. And that was the first time Amelia cried in front of him. The baby came in the middle of a thunderstorm. The road had flooded, the radio was down, and they were utterly alone. Amelia screamed through the contractions, tears of fear and pain streaking her face, but Elijah stayed beside her the entire time. Holding her hand. Whispering, "You can do this. You're not alone." Hours later, she held her daughter, Evelyn, in trembling arms. The storm had passed. Outside, the stars had returned, bright and defiant. Elijah wrapped them both in blankets and stoked the fire higher. In that moment, something shifted in Amelia. Not just the exhaustion of birth or the relief of survival, but something deeper. For the first time since her world had collapsed, she felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a future for her. For Evelyn. For the parts of her she had thought were broken beyond repair. Over the next few months, life settled into a rhythm. Elijah remained a constant, steady, kind, never overstepping. He loved Evelyn, that was clear. He built her a mobile of painted leaves and acorns. He read to her. He even carved her name into the front step. But more than that, he reminded Amelia, without words, what dignity looked like. When Evelyn turned 1, Amelia made a decision. She wanted to go back. Not to the people who had abandoned her, but to the places that needed changing. She wanted to finish school. To become a counselor. To build a refuge for girls like her, who had been silenced, discarded, blamed. When she told Elijah, his face didn't fall. Instead, he smiled. "I always knew you'd leave," he said. "But not because you were running. Because you were ready to rise." And rise she did. Amelia found a small apartment in town. Took night classes. Worked part-time. It was hard, so hard, but she was used to hard. What she wasn't used to was believing she deserved better. Elijah had changed that. Years passed. Evelyn grew into a fierce, bright girl who loved trees and books and the smell of sawdust. Every summer, they returned to the mountain. Elijah would be waiting, arms open, eyes soft. One evening, while Amelia watched Evelyn chase fireflies near the porch, she turned to him. "You know," she said, "you were the only person who didn't try to fix me. You just saw me." Elijah looked at her then, not like a father or a guardian, but like someone who understood what it meant to walk through fire and come out the other side. "You didn't need fixing," he said. "You just needed to be reminded of your worth. And isn't that what kindness truly is? Not grand gestures. Not rescue missions. But the quiet, radical act of seeing someone clearly. Without judgment, without conditions, and choosing to stay." Amelia would go on to help hundreds of girls. Some bruised. Some broken. All in need of what Elijah had given her, a space to remember who they were. And though she never called him father, and he never claimed to be one, she carried his lessons in her bones, and in Evelyn's laughter, and in the way she met the world, with quiet strength, unwavering gentleness, and a fierce belief in second chances. Because sometimes, the most powerful love stories aren't romantic at all. Sometimes, they're about strangers who become family, mountains that become homes, and punishments that turn, against all odds, into blessings.